The Indiana Fever just did something you won't believe. Facing the WNBA's most powerful squad and losing their biggest star, Caitlin Clark, who was deserted by veteran player Dana Bonner. They were positioned for a stunning failure. MVP frontrunner Nafissa Collier and the Minnesota Lynx were expected to win the Commissioner Cup handily. Rather, the Fever gave a masterclass in heart and willpower. Everyone was left dumbfounded by the performance led by Natasha Howard, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Your perception of this Fever team will be forever altered by what transpired in that game. Additionally, Caitlin Clark's 6 remarks following the game encapsulated why this victory is so significant. If you agree with the Fever, remark, "I'm sick." Let's move on. Imagine this. The Indiana Fever's roster is in complete disarray as they enter the Target Center for their first ever Commissioner's Cup final. Their standout sophomore, Caitlin Clark, who had been the team's engine all season, was out for the 3rd consecutive game due to a persistent groin issue. Not just any player was absent. Fans flocked to venues all around the nation because of this. Their top scorer and assist machine. What did Caitlin look like given her status? How did she feel during the shootout today? And is she improving and becoming more comfortable playing? She's getting better. She's getting better. Top of mind, as I believe I mentioned to you this afternoon, is simply long-term, ensuring that we don't experience any setbacks. Feeling good and making progress are 2 different things. Additionally, we wish to ensure her well-being. We wish to ensure her self-assurance. Right now, our top objective is to make sure we're not placing her in a situation where she could experience any setbacks. We're dealing with more than just that fever, though. Another huge gap in their rotation was created by Deiris Dantas playing in the Februm America, thousands of kilometers away. Fever, hello, you are missed. Then there was the Dwana Bonner incident, which stunned everyone to no end. In order to add leadership and experience, the Fever signed this experienced player during the summer. What is she doing? After just 9 games, she leaves the team and is waived. Discuss leaving your colleagues when they are most in need. For leadership, Dana Bonner was brought in. She was introduced as a leader. You want to know what she teaches these young players? Refuse to show up if things don't go your way. Keep receiving maximum compensation when you sit out and don't play. She was benched. It was too much for her to bear. I'd like to leave. She isn't performing well. People are criticizing her. I'd like to leave. Let's now discuss who they were up against. Not only were the Minnesota Lynx excellent, they held a dominant position. They were the greatest team in the whole WNBA going into this game with a 14 win-loss record. As the frontrunner for MVP, Nafissa Collier led the attack for the defending Commissioner's Cup champions who were playing on their home floor. The sold-out audience was energized and eager to see their team win the title again. The Lynx were favored by 14 points in Las Vegas. 14 points. Before tip-off, the Fever's obituary had already been written by the basketball community. Sports analysts predicted that this would be a landslide victory and that without their best players, Indiana had no business playing Minnesota. You know, the way they're playing, they look quite perfect. They appear even more connected, though I'm not sure whether that's a good phrase to describe them. They're a team that was connected a year ago. However, it's really important to know where your teammates will be and to have each other's back when you're on the defensive. Disciplined coverages, the offensive end of the court is where they are connected. I mean, it's incredibly difficult to cover because of the way they move, both with and without the ball. I frequently compare that offense to a dance. Well, and they're flowing. There is no question that they are creating music. In order to get them to stop that rhythm, we must attempt to be disruptive. For the Fever, here's where things get extremely difficult. It was meant to be their time. They made their first ever appearance in the Commissioner's Cup final, and everything that could go wrong did. The other players were aware that everyone was watching them. All of the critics were anticipating their collapse under the pressure. The Fever approached the game similarly to David and Goliath, but David arrived with a broken slingshot and half of his army had abandoned him. This is where things start to become pretty unpleasant. Without Caitlin Clark, the Fever appeared to be a very different squad. Prior to the Commissioner Cup final, they had lost 3 of their previous 5 games, frequently blowing double-digit leads that should have been simple victories. They lost the rhythm that made them dangerous throughout the season as the offensive speed slowed to a crawl. The movement of the ball simply vanished. Instead of playing team basketball, players began playing hero ball. It was visible to you, taking place in real time. They would force up disputed shoots rather than make the additional pass. They would attempt to handle everything individually rather than relying on their teammates. The Fever team that had thrilled supporters throughout the season wasn't this one. This is your first season with this group of players, Coach, so I'm simply curious if the Commissioner Cup is merely a prelude to bigger things. I hope so, anyway. However, we also need to take care of business right now, don't you think? Our goal is to win a cup. We're not necessarily considering it a stepping stone, you know. We're seeing it as a chance to succeed. And so we're considering that as a chance to keep stacking days. You know, as coaches, we haven't really developed the unity and connection that we need to succeed because, well, we haven't had a lot of consistency in our lineup. However, we can take another step in the direction of growth and consistency on the floor in terms of execution and energy level. As you are aware, we are currently playing the league's top squad, and we must take the field and give it our all. Now let's discuss Aaliyah Boston. Despite being one of their greatest weapons, she was not receiving the passes that would have allowed her to dominate the paint. Her teammates weren't finding her, but Boston thrives when she receives the ball in her areas. Instead, guards would force up shots from the outside while she set up position down low and called for the ball. Her face was showing signs of displeasure. Without their floor general, the team's identity seemed to disappear. Clark did more than just score goals and dish out assists. She was in charge of planning the attack, enlisting everyone and ensuring that the ball moved. They appeared disoriented on both sides of the court without her. Additionally, opponents began game planning in a different way. Without having to worry about Clark foiling their plans, they realized they could concentrate all of their defensive efforts on stopping Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. Which keys do you think are essential to understanding what are you guys supposed to do in order to approach the game successfully? Or are you going to do that specifically? Yes, I do believe that we must be disruptive. We must ensure that we play with a level of physicality that prevents them from just passing the ball wherever they want. Therefore, we must ensure that we are disruptive. Well, we need to make sure that we are the best at our on-ball screen defense. This is a team that reads and moves extremely well. You know, on-ball screen defense, we need to be at the top of our game at the attack. We usually talk about protecting our yard and being able to protect each other individually so that we're not in the rotation. Although we can let them do whatever they want on the offensive end, I believe that we will need to start on the defensive end of the court so that we can get out and run in transition as well. Does anyone else? Thank you, Coach. Thank you. For the entire roster, this Commissioner Cup game turned into the pivotal occasion. Without their finest player, would they be able to play basketball and win? Would they be able to regain the team harmony and ball movement that made them unique? What followed was even more amazing because of this battle. Stephanie White, the head coach, has a motto: pressure is a privilege, she argues. How does it feel to bring Indiana their first championship? It feels great, you said, entering the home of the former champions and defeating them on their home court. We were aware that we needed to enter this room with vigor. They were going to go on runs, and we know they're a fantastic team. Therefore, our goal was to stop such runs before continuing on our own. What followed will chill you to your core. The choice was made by the Indiana Fever to craft their own narrative. Something odd was visible in their eyes from the first glimpse. The team that had been having trouble without Clark was a different one. They made sure they won one for their injured superstar by coming out on top. Why did you feel confident enough to enter here and defeat this team on their home court? Well, we knew we could. God has prepared us, so we were able to come in here and do what we knew to do. I believe the coach simply kept encouraging us to take things one possession at a time, and we did just that. Obviously, the goal was to wall off the pain against you and Tosh, but you both ended up with double-double. In particular, how did you get going late in this game, and how did you guys become freed up? After all, it began with TSH. TSH really got to them during the first half and the entire game, forcing them to defend and having to space out as she attacked from all angles. Out a bit, and I managed to score in the fourth quarter. And lastly, what will you do with the money you won? That's for me, I guess. Well done, woman. When it counted most, Kelsey Mitchell took center stage and gave it her all. In the first quarter against the Lynx, she immediately displayed her attacking prowess by driving to the hoop. Mitchell shot an amazing 41% from three-point range after working hard to get open from beyond the arc. Her lightning-fast reflexes turned into a weapon the Lynx was powerless to halt. She was just giving it her all. She wasn't trying to do anything. Or carries it to the corner, to Cunningham. I got the three. The Indiana's first. This is where things start to become really fascinating, though. Aaliyah Boston dominated, as everyone knew she could after finally getting the ball in her position. She finished with 12 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 assists, which is an incredible double-double. Boston held her own against Nafisa Collier, an all-star. With each possession, the confidence was evidently growing. Boston demonstrated her leadership after the game by stating, "Everyone is important." I think everyone really played their role. We really handled that fourth quarter. Natasha Howard's MVP caliber effort took everyone by surprise and altered the course of the match. Howard finished with 16 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals, earning him the MVP award for the Commissioner's Cup. A cutting McDonald is discovered by Howard. Simple deuce. Excellent reading by Ari McDonald and Natasha Howard. The three-point shot was made possible by that. The thief is Howard. The floor was open before her. I got the lay. Indiana is fighting. The crowd is silent. Former Defensive Player of the Year is Natasha Howard, is aware that Nafisa Collier will win, simply receives that deflection, begins in the public courtroom, and everything is Indiana in terms of the momentum at the moment in this game. It's silent in here. She demonstrated ice in her veins under pressure as she made 8 of 8 free throws. The key was Howard's defensive vigor. She forced 5 turnovers while guarding Nafisa Collier and limiting her to difficult shots. When the Fever needed it most, she gave a performance that was extremely overpowering. Even though it was a team effort tonight, Natasha Howard deserves special recognition for her 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists. Sophie Cunningham provided the fire the team needed off the bench with 13 points and 7 rebounds, including 3. She was a major spark. The Fever overcame an early disadvantage thanks to three-pointers. Fans were ecstatic after Cunningham's clutch performance. Let's Mitchell have it. Turn to Cunningham, Mitchell, long-range bottoms, trifecta, big-time Cunningham, Sophie. With her outstanding contributions, Lexi Hall demonstrated that she was worthy of being on this stage. She would not let this chance pass her by. Aria McDonald, a recent addition, too had an instant impact, scoring 12 points and providing the team with the motivation they required. The timing of her return to the roster couldn't have been more ideal. Locates a hole. It's score for the troops.